Hello and welcome to another episode of Alex remodels a 3,400 square foot house all by himself in like 4 months. Hopefully 4 months. Hopefully not more. The more we spend, the more time I spend remodeling this house, the more money I lose. So, and yeah, then the sketchier it gets because the closer we are to our burn rate, or to exhausting our burn rate of cash. So I painted the house. I'm done painting all the walls. Obviously, there's still some BT dubs. This air compressor right here, I think it's, I can't remember how many gallons this is. Is it like 20? Yeah. Well, I can't remember how many gallons it is. 25, yeah, 25 gallons. My old compressor, my Sears Craftsman compressor, that I bought when I first moved to Idaho, took a shit, and it was a 30 gallon. It didn't have the motor wasn't as beefy as this one, and it was an oilless compressor. So it was enough to spray, and an entire like double wide trailer of texture, but it was not. It shit out, and or I think like the ignition or it was like, so these compressors have these batteries, and I'm not an electrician, I'm not an expert or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure on these on bigger electric motors, there's you see these two little see these two little things sticking out. Smaller motors only have one, but so everything that's electric has a starting like a starting watts or a starting like volts, or I don't know, starting power requirement, because it requires, like, electric motors need more power. It takes more power than maintenance to get them going, and you can only pull so much power out of the wall at one time, especially with appliances that are already at kind of they're pulling the most, like when they're running, even just their maintenance requirements are more than you can get out of the wall. So obviously, if that's the case, the motor's not even going to get started. You're gonna pop your breaker before you even get your appliance going. So a lot of electric motors that are of size that you plug into the wall have these. I think it's a capacitor or something. It's basically it's a battery that has a very high discharge rate, and it's charged, right? So when it kicks on, when you turn your compressor on, or you turn your drum sander on, or whatever's using that big ass motor, right? That capacitor kicks on, and it helps the power. It's as an assistant to it supplements the power coming out of the wall to get your electric motor up to maintenance speed, and to stay there, right? So with compressors, they start, if you're using them constantly, they're starting and they're stopping all the time because you're um, you're um, you know you're discharging the air in the compressor. There's a sensor in there that like senses, oh, we're now below X psi. We have to kick on the motor to bring that psi figure back up to like whatever the manual setting is at. So, anyways, my that's what took a shit on my old Craftsman compressor, my Sears Craftsman compressor, mind you. The difference is that when um, Sears went out of business, they sold the Craftsman brand to Lowe's, and when Sears owned, yeah, drop my tape. When Sears owned the brand, obviously they had, all of their tools were. This is back in, I don't know, was it 2018 when they sold? When Sears went out of business, and they uh, they went belly up. Um, so all of the Sears Craftsman stuff was black. Um, all of their tools were black because they had them, made in a different factory or whatever. And then when they sold them over to Lowe's, um, all of the tools are red now. They're Craftsman red, or whatever that means. I think they look like they look to me, the new Craftsman tools. They look like they're made by Stanley Black and Decker. They look like just Porter cable, or they look like honestly, they look like DeWalt tools that are slightly lower in quality and then just sold at a cheaper price. But that's what I think the new Craftsman is. I don't know. The many people who watch this channel can correct me if I'm wrong. Nobody watches this channel. This is mostly just me just talking. Because whatever. What else am I going to do if I work on this house for 12 hours a day? Talk about nothing. Yeah. Anyways, what I'm saying is, so yeah, I bought my compressor, and I didn't even buy it from Sears. They still sold that model of compressor, but I bought my old compressor used. It was that 30 gallon. But anyways, what I'm saying is, when it shit out, there's no like parts for that. Like I probably could have found them. I probably could have found the part. I probably could have changed the capacitor myself and kept that thing going. But the problem was, like, I bought that when I'm not saying I'm well off now, but especially right now, we're not poor by any means. I'm not saying by any means, but we're most certainly not well off. We have to pay very close attention to where we spend our money, especially right now you should always pay attention to where you spend your money. You should always practice fiscal conservatism regardless of how much money you have, just period. You should hold it as a value. You should hold fiscal conservatism as a value consistently. But yeah, probably could have kept it going. But the only thing so I bought that used off Craigslist, and I got it for a deal. Just like my jointer. I will never sell my jointer. I love my jointer. My jointer is an 8-inch jointer. It's made by Makita, and for one, when's the last time you walked into Lowe's and saw a jointer there made by Makita? Probably never, because the last time they made a jointer was like the 80s, and that was my jointer. And it's an 8-inch jointer. And number two, when's the last time you walked into a Woodcraft or a Rockwell or any store that sells woodworking machinery and saw an 8-inch jointer run off 120 volts? Probably never. So, I mean, my jointer is it is, um, it's a unicorn. It is it's an extinct species. You can't just go out and buy it. So I will have that jointer till the day I die. Sure, does it have a helical cutter head? No, it does not. But you know what? As long as you sharpen your knives routinely and have a couple extra laying around so you can have one off while you're sharpening them, and because it takes a while to sharpen them, so you should have a couple sets so that you can have one on as you're sharpening the other ones. You know, here and there when you have spare time, maybe when you're watching TV, you bring your you bring your work sharp machine out to the couch, bring it in from the shop, plop it on in front of you on the coffee table on the couch, sharpen some jointer knives. Anyways, yeah, what I'm saying is, my old compressor was, for all intents and purposes, like discontinued. So it was. I did look for another capacitor, but I couldn't find one. And then, you know, what if something else broke? I'm like, I don't know. And not only that, it was a hot dog compressor. I mean, technically, this one's my DeWalt. You know, 200 psi oil, lubed compressor is a hot dog compressor too, but it's just standing straight up. Anyways, yeah, it was a hot dog compressor, so it was laying down, which is very inefficient on space, right? Whenever you can, if you're in the market for a compressor, regardless of like if it's anything more than like 10 gallons, you really don't waste your money on a compressor that lays down. Unless, of course, it's like, you know, you're going to save a ton of money and then, you know, you make it work and you can't like afford it or something like that, but you need a compressor, you know, in that case, get it used. You know, I don't know, getting a compressor used is kind of sketchy too sometimes, because what a lot of people don't know is you need a drain. After each use, you have to open the drain valve of your compressor, because if you don't, over the years, it'll accumulate rust, and you can't see it from the outside because it's got that, you know, nice painted surface. And if it's really rusty and corroded on the inside, and you buy a used compressor from someone who didn't know how to properly care for the unit, and they never would drain the air out of it after each use, you're basically buying a bomb, without knowing that you're buying a bomb. And that's like not cool. You know, it's kind of dangerous. So I guess, I don't know, don't buy a compressor used. I did because I had no money and I needed a compressor. Need is, I guess, a relative term. In my mind, I needed a compressor. But anyways, yeah, I had another one. Loved it, Craftsman. I have an affinity for Craftsman because my dad had Craftsman tools, and when he passed, I had the only thing I had left of the guy was his toolbox, and in his toolbox was all Craftsman tools. So I've got a special spot in my heart for Craftsman tools, and I still have. He had a couple toolboxes. One of them is still at my mom's house, and we just kind of keep it there. That's where all the sockets and stuff were. But the other one, I actually keep it in my car, and it holds my gun when I'm driving. I put my gun in there when I'm out and about. So, anyways, this DeWalt 25-gallon, 200 psi oil lubed compressor I love it. It kicks so much ass. It is, I'm pretty sure, I think it's the, the motor that's on that thing. Um, it's it's the most, it's the beefiest motor that you can have on a 120 volt circuit. Um, so, I mean, that thing is, it's working. Um, it's definitely working for its air. So, so it fills up pretty quick. Um, and the PSI, so 200 PSI is kind of a lot. So if you're, crammed for space, and you can only run, you only have the ability to run tools on a 120 volt circuit, and you need a compressor, and you need something and you have to paint stuff with it, and you have to spray texture, and you have to, every once in a while, get it to do these bigger jobs. I would highly recommend getting something that's at least 25 gallons, 20 gallons, and you want the highest PSI rating that you can find, because that means it's fitting more. That compressor it's shoving more air in per square foot or per square inch than a compressor that's rated for like 130. And that's the price difference, honestly, that you're going to see. Like, you go to Harbor Freight, not dogging on Harbor Freight, love me some Harbor Freight. I mean, I'm wearing their hat. Wait a minute, what am I doing? Oh yeah. I mean, I'm wearing their hat, so I love me some Harbor Freight. But sometimes, a lot of the reason why their stuff is cheaper is because you're not paying the middleman for like advertising and stuff. They're going direct to the factories that make most of the tools for the other guys anyway, and they're just getting tools from them directly. And I mean, they're not the same tools, but they're making them. They're hiring people to design tools for them. And yep. Anyways, the cheaper compressors don't have a high PSI rating. A higher PSI rating. And you want a high PSI rating because you get more bang for your space, for your limited space in the tank. So that's why I love my DeWalt 25 gallon 200 PSI oil loop compressor. Oh, and that's another thing. Sometimes I feel like people get intimidated by an oil lubed compressor because it's like, oh dang, and there's maintenance involved. But I mean, as long as you take care of it and you don't you can tip it when you transport it. You just have to give it, I would give it an hour or so when you're done transporting it, for the oil to come back and make its way back into the well. But it's not that, you just have to make sure that you change the oil every once in a while, and just make sure that it has oil in it, and it's really easy to make sure there's oil in there. And then I feel like that compressor will last me longer than, because with the other ones, once that thing is over, once it's done, it's done. Once those parts are done, you're shit out of luck. Your compressor's toast. And I feel like with these oil ones, you could probably replace parts and stuff because the the pistons in there, they're not coated. Like the other ones,